name is Mercedes D. Loving Manley. I'm the daughter to Harold Edward Loving Jr. and Antonia Manley, aka Tony. Being a black woman to me means just having the freedom to be and exist, and knowing my history, cherishing my history, allowing myself the time to really reflect. Societal pressures, family pressures, work pressures, stuff like that can just really be a stress, especially in the middle of a pandemic. So like being a black woman for me is just like owning that stress and, you know, sitting with it and reflecting and then moving on to strive for better. And learning different tools for how to maneuver through life with that stress. I feel like whenever people talk about something black, it's usually about like men. In the Black Lives Matter movement, in different like black liberation movements, black liberation theory and things like that, critical race theory, oftentimes it centers men and it doesn't always center the experiences of women. In my experience, a lot of black men exercise these different privileges and violate black women as a result of these privileges, but they don't really take accountability for the things that they put black women through. Some black women in my life that I look up to, my great-grandmother from my dad's side, Ruth L. Loving, may she rest in peace. My grandmother from my mom's side, Dorothy Manley, may she rest in peace. My mom. And then like community that I've like fostered on my own. My best friends, really like my sisters, like all my friends are really just like my sisters. Like those are just chosen family. So, you know, they inspire me to center myself and to know my limits, to stand my ground, to speak up for myself, to advocate for myself, to appreciate the joys that come with being in community with other black women. In the past 4 years, I've really learned to appreciate the complexities in a relationship and the nuances in a relationship, specifically with me and my mom. I've learned that everything is not going to always be good. Everything is not always going to be peaceful, and that peace looks different for my mom and for me. So our ideas of peace might be different. There's ways that my mom needs to be loved that may not work for me and vice versa. The woman has a whole history, you know, she has her own stories and I have my own stories, and that's something that makes us magical, and it's also something that can make us butt heads sometimes. But overall, I would say that my love and my bond with my mom is one of the deepest bonds that I've ever known, even though it's the most complex. I would call my mom a soldier because she has always been the type of person to fight for anything that she wants. She's very vocal, very opinionated, boisterous at times, very resilient. She loves to cook. Yeah, I get my cooking from my mom and I cook down. Like I cook very, 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 very well, and I get that from her. She's never been the type of person to really have specific tactics in the kitchen, but like she just kind of experiments and lets like the spirit just like lead her in whatever way to make these beautiful, amazing meals. Like my mom's macaroni and cheese, her meatballs, she makes the best fried chicken. She's the best cook in the family, and so quite naturally I'm the second best cook in the family. So yeah, best thing that I think she has taught me how to nurture myself and take care of myself. I started transitioning when I was 19. I had already been like out on my own. I had left and went to college, and I was just like, girl, like this is what it is. I remember going home and my mom sat me on the toilet and she made me eat soap off of her hand. That is one of the most vivid memories that I have of my childhood. My first time expressing myself truthfully and wholly and fully was when I went to college and I didn't have to answer to anyone. Oftentimes when I would slip up as a child, I would get reprimanded, and things like that don't really have the, you know, they didn't have the best effect on me, but I'm able to like work through those different things now. You could not talk back, you had to respect adults, couldn't really express your opinion, which never really went well with me. I was always talking back, really. Whoopings was kind of a thing. I remember like waiting on my dad to get home from work and him whooping me after my mom had already whooped me. I remember staying across the street at a neighbor's house after school because my mom was working, my dad was working, my grandparents weren't home, and she was basically babysitting me, and we were laughing. Me and her grandchildren were laughing the entire time, just being children. And it was frustrating to her, and she had communicated it to my mom, and then once we got across the street and were walking up the steps, she just whacked me so hard. And that's like one of my most vivid memories. Like of being reprimanded as a child. Overall, I never went to bed hungry. I never had to sleep outside. I never felt abandoned in the literal or physical sense. I'll say that. I never lacked for clothes. I never lacked for food. I never lacked for financial support. I never lacked in those areas. If I had the power to like go back and change it all, the things I would change would be gender expression, gender performance, understandings of gender, understandings of intersectionality, understandings of acceptance, understandings of genuineness. What I would really change is like the mindsets of the individuals that I grew up around, because it would have been a safer place for me to really start expressing myself younger. But as far as like, you know, feeling taken care of, as far as like having somewhere to like lay my head and having someone to call mom, having someone to call dad, etc., you know, that stuff I'm really grateful for because I had that.